Welcome to Listen Audiobooks, your free audiobook. I'm your host. Today we're exploring Self-Love Blueprint Transform Life. This audiobook will transform how you think about this subject. Let's dive in. There is a moment most people never talk about. It happens in the quiet spaces, maybe early in the morning before anyone else is awake, or late at night when the house has finally gone still. You catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror, or you sit down with a cup of coffee that's already gone cold, and something inside you whispers a question you've been avoiding for a very long time. The question isn't dramatic, it isn't loud, but it lands with the weight of everything you've been carrying. The question is simply this: when did I stop being on my own side? Maybe you can't pinpoint the exact moment. Most people can't. It didn't happen all at once. It crept in slowly, the way a room gets dark when you forget to turn on the lights. Somewhere between trying to be what others needed, between pushing yourself harder while never quite feeling like enough, between apologizing for taking up space and shrinking yourself to keep the peace. You, quietly, almost imperceptibly, abandoned yourself. And the most heartbreaking part? You probably didn't even notice you were doing it. I want you to really hear what I just said, because this is important. You didn't fail at self-love because you're broken. You didn't end up here because something is fundamentally wrong with you. You ended up here because nobody ever handed you the blueprint. Nobody sat you down and taught you how to build a life rooted in genuine respect, compassion, and care for yourself. You were taught to be kind to others. You were taught to work hard, to be humble, to put family first, to be a good friend, a reliable partner, a dependable colleague. All of those things matter. But somewhere in that long and earnest education, you were left out of your own lesson plan. And so here you are. Perhaps you're exhausted in a way that sleep doesn't fix. Perhaps you've been setting the same goals for years, getting tantalizingly close, and then somehow self-sabotaging before you can reach them. Perhaps your relationships feel like they take everything and give back very little. Perhaps you're successful on the outside in ways that should feel satisfying, yet you carry a persistent, nagging sense that something essential is missing. These are not random symptoms. They are not personality flaws or character weaknesses. They are the predictable, entirely understandable results of living without a self-love foundation. That changes today, right now. With this conversation between us, what you're about to experience over the course of this journey is not a collection of feel-good affirmations to repeat into the bathroom mirror. It is not a performance of self-care dressed up in bubble baths and gratitude journals, though rest and reflection certainly have their place. What this is, what I built this for you, is a real, practical, deeply honest blueprint for transforming the single most important relationship you will ever have, the one you have with yourself. Because when that relationship changes, everything else changes with it. Chapter 1. Expose the hidden cost of self-neglect and why most people unknowingly sabotage their own happiness by never learning to truly love themselves. There's a version of you that never gets tired of apologizing for existing. You probably don't even notice it anymore. It's become so automatic, the way you shrink in certain rooms, the way you say yes when every cell in your body is screaming no, the way you laugh off a compliment before it has a chance to land. You've been doing it so long, it feels like personality. It isn't. It's damage. And the scary part is that most people carry this damage their entire lives without ever giving it a name. Self-neglect doesn't look the way most people imagine. It doesn't always show up as chaos or crisis. Sometimes it looks incredibly responsible. You show up for everyone. You remember birthdays. You answer texts at midnight. You hold space for other people's grief while quietly burying your own. From the outside, your life looks fine, maybe even admirable. But inside there's this persistent low-grade exhaustion that never quite goes away, this feeling that something important is missing, even when you can't point to what it is. That feeling has a source, and it starts with the simple, devastating fact that nobody ever taught you how to treat yourself like someone worth protecting. Think about that for a moment. Really sit with it. You learned table manners. You learned to drive. Someone taught you how to shake hands and write a thank you note. But did anyone ever sit you down and teach you how to honor your own needs? Did anyone ever model what it looks like to love yourself without guilt, without conditions, without constantly earning the right to rest? For most of us, the answer is no, and we've been paying the price ever since. Here's what that price actually looks like. It looks like staying in relationships that drain you because you don't believe you deserve better. It looks like a career that makes your stomach sink every Sunday evening, one you've been meaning to leave for years, but somehow never do. It looks like the dream you keep postponing, waiting for some future version of yourself who is finally ready, finally worthy, finally enough. That version never arrives, not because you're not capable, but because the foundation was never built. You cannot construct a life you love on a base of self-abandonment. It doesn't hold. The cruelest part of all of this is that you probably blame yourself for the results. You look at the emptiness and decide it's evidence of your inadequacy, when really it's evidence of an absence, the absence of the one relationship that makes all other relationships possible. The relationship you have with yourself. This isn't about bubble baths and positive affirmations. Those things have their place, but what we're talking about goes much deeper than surface rituals. We're talking about the internal operating system that runs beneath every decision you make, every boundary you fail to set, every moment you choose comfort for someone else over truth for yourself. That system was written a long time ago by experiences you didn't choose and beliefs you never consciously agreed to. But here's what matters right now, in this moment, wherever you're listening to this. That system can be rewritten. You can learn, at any age, in any season of life, what it actually feels like to be on your own side. And that changes everything. Absolutely everything. Chapter 2. Introduce the Self-Love Blueprint Framework by defining what genuine self-love looks like, debunking common myths, and laying the psychological foundation for transformation. So, let's talk about what self-love actually is, because chances are, what you've been told it looks like and what it genuinely requires are two very different things. Here's the truth. Self-love is not a feeling you stumble into on a good day. It's not a bubble bath, a motivational quote on your mirror, or the moment you decide to splurge on something nice for yourself. Those things can be wonderful. But they are expressions of self-care, not the foundation of self-love. And when you confuse the two, you end up chasing comfort instead of building something real. Genuine self-love is a practice of radical honesty. It means looking at yourself, the whole picture, the parts you're proud of, and the parts that make you wince, and choosing to remain in your own corner anyway. Not because you're perfect, because you're yours. That distinction matters more than almost anything else we'll cover together. Now, let's dismantle one of the biggest myths standing between you and actual transformation. The idea that self-love means thinking highly of yourself all the time, that it requires constant confidence, unshakable positivity, a kind of relentless cheerfulness about who you are. That myth is exhausting, and more importantly, it's a trap. When you believe self-love means always feeling good about yourself, every moment of doubt becomes evidence that you're failing at it. And failure at self-love feels particularly cruel, doesn't it? Let that belief go. Real self-love includes sitting with discomfort. It includes acknowledging when you've made a mistake without spiraling into shame. It includes saying, I don't like this about myself right now, and I'm still not going to abandon myself over it. That's the harder work, That's also the work that actually changes your life. Psychologically, what we're talking about here is what researchers call self-compassion. It's the ability to treat yourself with the same care and understanding you would instinctively offer someone you love. Studies show that people who practice this consistently demonstrate lower levels of anxiety, greater emotional resilience, and a stronger capacity for authentic connection with others. This isn't soft science. The data is clear. How you relate to yourself shapes everything. And here's where the blueprint comes in. Think of it as a framework, a set of interconnected practices and perspectives that, when built together, create a stable inner foundation. Not a roof you patch over old cracks, but something you construct from the ground up. Each layer depends on the ones beneath it. Each decision you make from a place of genuine self-regard reinforces the next one. You've likely spent years building your identity around external feedback, around approval, performance, comparison. That's not your fault. That's conditioning. Most of us absorbed those patterns before we were old enough to question them, but you're questioning them now. That's why you're here. The first layer of this blueprint is awareness without judgment, just the ability to see yourself clearly, to notice your patterns, your reactions, your fears, without immediately labeling them as character flaws. Awareness is not criticism, it's just light, and you cannot change what you refuse to actually look at. So before we build anything else, let that light in, not to expose you, to orient you. Because the direction of your transformation begins here, in this honest, grounded, compassionate meeting with yourself. Chapter 3. Guide listeners through the core pillars of the blueprint, including self-awareness, boundary setting, self-compassion, and identity reconstruction as the building blocks of lasting change. So now that you understand why the foundation matters, let's talk about what actually goes into building it. Because a blueprint isn't just a pretty idea, it's a set of deliberate, specific pillars that hold everything else up. And when even one of those pillars is weak or missing, the whole structure becomes unstable. You've felt that instability before. Most people have. Today, that changes. The first pillar is self-awareness, not the surface-level kind where you know your favorite color or your coffee order. Real self-awareness is the willingness to sit with yourself long enough to notice your patterns, the thoughts that loop, the emotions you avoid, the triggers you pretend don't exist. It asks you to become a gentle observer of your own inner life, rather than a judge or a critic. When you develop this kind of awareness, something remarkable happens. You stop being surprised by yourself. You start to understand why you do what you do. And that understanding is the very beginning of your power to change it. The second pillar is boundary setting. And this one tends to make people uncomfortable. Setting boundaries isn't about building walls or keeping people out. It's about knowing where you end and someone else begins. It's about honoring what you need so deeply that you're willing to say it out loud, even when your voice shakes. Every time you said yes when you meant no, every time you shrank yourself to fit someone else's comfort, you were quietly eroding your sense of self. Boundaries are how you rebuild that. They are acts of self-respect, not selfishness. Learn to feel the difference. Next comes self-compassion, and this might be the most radical pillar of all. Because so many of us have been conditioned to believe that being hard on ourselves makes us better, that the inner critic is somehow keeping us in line. But here's the truth. Cruelty, whether it comes from the outside or from the voice inside your own head, does not produce growth. It produces shame, and shame keeps you stuck. Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same patience, care, and understanding you would offer to someone you truly love. Not as a reward for getting things right, but as a baseline, as a given, as something you deserve simply because you are human and you are trying. And then there is identity reconstruction. This is where everything comes together. Because all of the self-awareness, all of the boundaries, all of the compassion, they are working toward something. They are working toward a new story about who you are. Not the story your family told you. Not the story your worst moments wrote for you. Yours. Deliberately chosen, consciously built, and anchored in the values that actually matter to you. Identity reconstruction is not about pretending your past didn't happen. It happened. It shaped you. But it does not have to define you from this point forward. These 4 pillars support each other. They work together the way a strong building works, each one doing its part so the others can stand firm. And here is what I want you to hold on to as you move forward. You are not starting from scratch. You are starting from awareness. And that, right there, is already something worth celebrating. Chapter 4. Provide actionable daily rituals, mindset shifts, and real-world exercises that listeners can immediately apply to rewire their relationship with themselves and begin living the blueprint. So let's talk about what this actually looks like when you wake up tomorrow morning. Because the blueprint isn't something you hang on a wall and admire. It's something you live in, daily, with your hands and your choices and your attention. Start with the first 5 minutes. Before you reach for your phone, before you check the news or scroll through someone else's highlight reel, put both feet on the floor and take 3 slow, deliberate breaths. This isn't about meditation being magic. It's about you sending yourself a message. I am worth a moment of stillness before the world gets my energy. That pause is a declaration. Small, yes. Powerful, absolutely. Now here's a mindset shift that changes everything. Most people spend their days trying to earn their own approval. They hustle, they perform, they wait for some future version of themselves to finally feel worthy. But self-love isn't a destination you arrive at after you lose the weight, or land the job, or fix the thing you've been avoiding. It's a practice you choose right now with the exact life you're holding. The shift is this. Stop auditioning for your own acceptance. You already have the part. There's an exercise I want you to try today. Get something to write with and find 10 minutes somewhere quiet. At the top of the page, write the words, "What I keep dismissing about myself." Then list every strength, every quality, every small act of courage that you routinely wave away with phrases like, "It's nothing," or "Anyone would do that." Your patience with difficult people, the way you show up when someone needs you, the quiet resilience you carry that no one else even sees. Write it down, read it back. Because what you minimize, you cannot multiply. You have to name it before you can own it. Another ritual worth building is what I call the honest mirror moment. Once a day, look at yourself, really look, and say one true kind thing out loud. Not a forced affirmation you don't believe yet, something real. Maybe it's, "I kept going today even when it was hard." Maybe it's, "I am learning." Your nervous system responds to your own voice more deeply than you realize. Hearing yourself speak kindness toward yourself begins to rewire the internal narrative that's been running on autopilot for years. Here's what will happen as you start doing these things. Your mind will push back. It will call this silly, unnecessary, indulgent. That resistance isn't a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's actually a sign that you are doing something right. The habits that threaten old patterns always meet old patterns at the door. And when the pushback comes, don't argue with it. Just return. Return to the breath. Return to the page. Return to the mirror. Consistency is not perfection. It's showing up again after you've stepped away, without punishing yourself for the gap. Every single one of these rituals sends the same message to the deepest part of you. You matter enough to tend to. Not someday. not when things settle down. Now. This is how the blueprint gets built, not in some dramatic single moment of transformation, but in the quiet, accumulated weight of daily choices that say, again and again, I am worth this. Chapter 5. Inspire listeners to commit to their self-love. Journey by painting a vivid picture of the transformed life that awaits and issuing a powerful call to choose themselves every single day. You have come so far already. Just by showing up here, just by listening, you have done something quietly revolutionary. You chose yourself. Maybe for the first time in a long time, maybe for the first time ever. And that choice, that single, courageous choice, is the seed of everything that is about to grow. I want you to close your eyes for a moment, if you can. Picture the version of you who has walked this path. Not a perfect version. Not someone without scars or hard days or moments of doubt, but someone who knows their worth without needing to prove it. Someone who wakes up in the morning and feels, somewhere deep and steady, that they belong in their own life, that they are enough. Not someday. Now. That person sets boundaries without guilt, because they understand that protecting their peace is not selfishness, it is wisdom. That person speaks kindly to themselves in the mirror, not because everything is figured out, but because they have decided that kindness is non-negotiable. They move through the world differently. Lighter, more grounded. They stop shrinking for rooms that were never big enough to hold them anyway. That person is you. Already. It is simply a matter of choosing it, again and again. Here is what no one tells you about self-love. It is not a destination you arrive at and then park forever. It is a daily practice. Some days it looks like resting when your body begs for it. Some days it looks like having the hard conversation, or walking away from something that has been slowly draining the color from your life. Some days it looks like sitting quietly with yourself and saying, I am still here. I still matter. That is enough for today. The transformed life waiting for you is not built from grand gestures. It is built from tiny, consistent acts of devotion to yourself. One honest choice at a time. One gentle redirect when the old voice of self-doubt creeps back in. One moment of choosing your own well-being over old patterns that no longer serve you. You will have days when it feels hard. You will stumble back into familiar habits, familiar thoughts, familiar smallness. That is not failure. That is being human. What matters is that you come back. You always come back. Because you have made a commitment, not to be perfect, but to keep going. To keep choosing yourself, even imperfectly, even on the tired days. This is the blueprint. Not a rigid set of rules, but a living, breathing promise you make to yourself. I will not abandon me. I will not betray me for the comfort of someone else's approval. I will tend to myself the way I tend to the things and people I love most. You deserve that, not as a reward, not once you have earned it or fixed enough about yourself. Right now, as you are. So here is my final invitation to you. Take everything you have learned, everything you have felt while walking through this journey, and carry it forward like a light. Let it change how you speak to yourself. Let it change what you accept. Let it change what you believe is possible for your life. Because something remarkable happens when you choose yourself. Life starts choosing you back, and it begins right now. Thank you for listening to Listen Audiobooks. I'm your host. If this resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. See you for the next episode.